program for city employees for the day-to-day membership at Lakeshore, and I'm sure something could be worked out there. And if the city were to support it, I know Lakeshore would be glad to buy an ad in the Homewood Star thanking the city of Homewood for your support. So there's some things that the Lakeshore is prepared to do and willing to do as a as a thank you for any support you might give. And that's the pitch. That's just a little quick flyer on the program. I'll be glad to answer any questions. And one thing Lakeshore is committed to do is their fiscal year starts in October, and they see this as a sustaining program, and they would build it into their budget for next year. So we know the program's going to be sustainable because Lakeshore is committed to doing that. The money we're raising now is to get us really through the end of their current fiscal year.
And the next, since the pilot program was the 2 guys,
Right.
and that have they gone back? Or
They went back, let's see, what's the date? Today's Monday. They went back last Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
They went back, not to Ukraine.
Okay.
One of them had been in Orlando, one had been in Chicago.
Okay.
So the first thing they did is they go back to
Where
the
they
city.
were.
And then I think sometime, one of them was actually going back to Ukraine in April, and the other one early May. They had been in the U.S. for about 8 weeks.
Okay, okay. And in this next camp, as you called it, how many, do we know how many?
We're trying to get
people are gonna
6
be?
or 8 or maybe 10.
Okay.
And the model that Lakeshore has always used on the military camps is bring a family member, bring a partner, bring a friend. In this case, one of the participants had his fiance with him, because going through the program with somebody who's going to be with you, once you leave, is very helpful. So it could be 6 to 10 participants plus whoever they bring with them.
Yeah.
And the budget for these things is a little bit unpredictable because one of the big challenges, neither one of these guys spoke a bit of English.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we had some paid interpreters, but we found some local people from Ukraine living here locally who volunteered their services as interpreters, which was huge because.
I had some ladies who worked for me at Trinity who were Ukrainian.
Okay.
That work with
Keep
you.
that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing, honestly. And I can't think of how exciting it must be to have these guys who have been through who knows what here in Homewood and getting to have their rehab at Lakeshore, because my mom was at Lakeshore and it's an amazing place. So, I mean, I would be supportive of it. Where would that money come from?
Well, I mean, in order to support something like this, we have to be able to assess what the benefit would be to Homewood citizens. I mean, with anything that we provide support on, we have to be able to document what and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kendrick, I mean.
Well, it has to serve a public purpose.
Yeah.
Jeff knows that. If we could work out a contract that would address that issue, it would be
Yeah.
but it would need to serve a public purpose before we could spend public funds.
Right, yeah. I mean, in my view, it's similar to supporting, because all the participants at Exceptional Foundation aren't necessarily from Homewood.
They
but-
all provide a service.
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
city of Homewood.
Well, yeah.
It's a little unique that we have non-US citizens.
Right.
It's a little challenging for the public purpose, but
Right.
we can work on that with them.
Okay.
Would there be like education opportunities?
Sorry?
Like maybe education opportunities where, I don't know, young folks or folks who want to interact and engage?
One thing that's on the table for the next camp is more of a, and I can't promise this because this is still, it is a community event associated with it, which could be an educational event. It could somehow incorporate the schools, or possibly, but the sensitivity is there. You want to make sure that the participants are not put in a situation where they are not uncomfortable, a situation that they in fact are prepared for. Now these last 2 guys, they loved having their picture made, they loved telling their story, they were great. I mean, they could be the poster children for this program. We just hope that going forward, the participants are of the same mind. But a community event or an educational event of some kind is certainly one of the things that Lakeshore is talking about. because one thing that I discovered as I started pulling this together and talking to people around town and raising a little bit of money was how many people with Ukrainian connections are in the Birmingham community. And they're, you know, it seemed like every time I sort of turned around, there was somebody else who had some kind of connection and was interested in being involved in this. So there's a lot of interest in the Birmingham community for people to sort of somehow connect to this. And I expect that's going to happen. It's just still kind of sort of being formulated, I guess I'd say.
And the participants, because don't y'all have some housing there?
Yeah, they stay on
Lakeshore?
campus
Right, yeah,
in
they stay
the housing.
Yeah, okay. Again,
And I'm sure Lakeshore would be glad to consider, you know, whatever if it sort of meets the test of public benefit. If there's something that you want to sort of, if you feel like needs to be done in order to satisfy that requirement, then I think you just need to sort of let me know or let Lakeshore know, and let's have a conversation about it.
Okay.
and I think like we can figure that out. Yeah, or figure that out.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
All of our contracts are phrased in a fee for service.
Yeah, right.
Some service to
Yeah.
the city.
Okay. Again, I'm supportive of it. I think it's really an incredible, and I think it would be really cool for people to be able to engage and see kind of, hear from those folks. And I understand, obviously, they're being treated for injuries, so you don't want to make them feel like they're having to be show ponies, you know, for the trot them out to do a show. But I mean, it would be really cool, I think, for people to understand, because it's such a huge international event that,
You know,
these are people who
I was
really-
at Lakeshore 30 years. Now, I was around a lot of people who'd been through a lot in their lives, and including a lot of U.S. servicemen and women. But for two people whose country was still in the middle of a war, and the attitude they had about it, I was blown away by it. These two guys were just incredible, and I'm just thinking, they've got to know every day, at the end of the day, or every minute of the day, they're cognizant of what's going on in their country, and the fact is they're trying to live life to the fullest, and because they're not trying to become superstar athletes. They're trying to get to a point where they can go back in and help defend their home and defend their country, which is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's probably sort of beside the fact when it comes to.
Yeah. So do we want to work on this for one more time in the committee, or, I mean, I'm open to suggestions on I think we need to,
I
we just
think
gotta.
if we could work with Mr. Kendrick to try to figure out the language, and figure out how to make
Yeah.
that part of the contract. And we're talking about $5,000.
And it would, just have to,
It'd just be new money carryover fund balance. I'd have to establish a 0111
Just a
appropriation
line item.
account for Lakeshore Foundation.
I mean, I would make a motion to do that.
For 5,000, you said?
Yes, with the, working out the language for public benefit with Mike, so that contract makes sense, and then taking the money from, like you said, from carryover fund balance and establishing that line item.
Second.
okay, it's been moved by Counselor Smith, seconded by Counselor Allen.
Jeff, do you see this as a,
And Mayor?
do you see this as a recurring, like annual?
I would not. I would see this as a one-time request to the city of Homewood.
Okay,
I think he said they're gonna try to build it into the budget for
Yeah,
next.
that's Lakeshore's
in
commitment.
October.
all right, just wanted to make sure.
This would be to get them
Yeah.
through to the end of this budget year, since it wasn't part of the original budget.
Okay.
Good question.
Sure.
And is the money
Well,
somewhat,
we got budget coming in.
I know.
somewhat to get them here physically, and then while they're here, the cost of them here? Is
I
that
can do the budget.
generally what it
Just keep
is?
saying if you want to put it in the one resolution or whatever.
You gotta physically get them here somehow.
Right. Well, for the pilot program, we shared the group out of Orlando paid for one of them to get here, and we paid for the couple to get here. Now, we're not sure on the next group. Depends. If they're currently the way the model is currently working, all the participants would be people who are currently in the U.S. So we're depending upon this group out of Orlando as kind of our intake.
And So they would, y'all aren't bringing them from Ukraine, they're already here.
That's correct.
And this is just getting them from wherever they are in the United States.
That is
to here.
correct.
Okay,
To
got it.
Lakeshore.
Now,
Yeah.
if this really sort of grows, there's talk about, I don't know if any of y'all have ever heard of the Invictus Games, these are the
Yeah,
games that.
Prince Harry.
Prince Harry. There's some talk about, the group out of Orlando has asked Lakeshore if Lakeshore would consider being a training site for the Ukrainian team for this year's Invictus Games. Now, that would be a whole different ball of wax, but that's, so, I mean, I think just the fact that when I started talking to people about this idea, I asked quite a few people in DC and in Colorado Springs if anybody else was doing this, and they said, everybody said, no, not yet, but if, somebody needs to start doing this, so here in Homewood, it started, so got off to a good start. Yeah.
All right,
Is
been
the-
moved and
Jeff, is the
seconded.
downside that there's a chance you won't get anybody here? You'll raise some money and there may not be any more folks come?
I would say that before the pilot program, I would have said that's a possibility. With the group in Orlando already, they bring 60 or 80 people into the country at a time for a period of several weeks and months. So that intake issue seems to be addressed. And the war's certainly not about to end, so.
All right. Okay, any other questions? All right, been motion seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. That's 5-0.
So do we need to have a conversation then about the public benefit test
Yeah,
at some
we can-
point?
I'll call you tomorrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Mike will call you.
I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you, Jay.
And my employee at Trinity, her name is Tatiana Gavrakova. Both her boys graduated from high school at Homewood. They live in Homewood. And
Okay.
they're Ukrainian.
Okay.
So I might get
Well,
her
why-
in contact.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank y'all.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on, 03-04-23. Request to amend FY 22-23 budget for street department. I think we sent that out this afternoon. Do you want to, this is mainly for the American Legion project. And Ms. Andrus, this, I guess, the next two items are yours. So this is basically, we thought we could probably get that done with what we had in the budget, and we really don't.
I'll be short, I have 2 other projects that we have to get done with.
I mean-
So it's gonna take me, I won't have enough in there to complete it, so it'll zero out my line item for the
So
year.
this is a request for $28,500, within your
Yeah.
your department to handle it. And it's certainly a needed project, and we don't need people driving the wrong way, as we recall how that
Well, and we've
configuration was. But
we've gotta get the people there's delivery trucks that are parking right there, on that sidewalk,
Yeah.
exactly wherever, so we've gotta stop that. And maybe the construction will help.
okay, so that's the main thing. Wasn't there another item on there?
Just
Um,
$1,000 to vehicle maintenance from care fund balance because I didn't see enough money in the repairs and
Okay.
maintenance and Gordon had a couple unexpected repairs in the Explorer
That's a
and. so
safety issue,
out of
yeah.
He needs to put 2 tires on, I don't have any money.
All right, so this is basically instead of just for the one, it's for the 2 budget amendments? Okay.
We only added it because it was an emergency today.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
totally out of money and he couldn't
Yeah.
put the tires on. So, and I gotta still make it to 9:30.
So you need some tires?
I'll be
Okay.
walking.
I will make a motion to approve the 2 budget amendments as presented.
Second.
Been moved by Counselor Smith, seconded by Counselor Harden. What is the timing on that, Berkeley, if you?
They are actually starting on, we finished the Berry Road, storm drain project, and we've got one other, he's starting probably tomorrow over off of Iredale and all over in there. And as soon as he gets done with that, then they'll go to the American Legion project. He told me probably within 2 weeks, they should be getting started on it.
Okay, thank you. It's been motion seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. I hope I didn't do that twice. 5-0, that passes, okay? All right, moving on, 040423, request for consideration to fund 2 litter getters.
Leader getters.
Okay,
So we have 2 litter getters. One is in Griffin Creek and one is in Shades Creek. We have had a grant from the Freshwater Land Trust that paid for the one that was in Shades Creek. That is expiring at the end of June. So overall, it's been a great project. To date, this site has collected over 1,000 pounds of trash and 300 pounds of recycling. That's from Griffin Creek. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit.
So that's that one over on Broadway.
That's one over in Broadway by Jane and Lamb's house.
Yeah.
So she came to me in Berkeley to talk about bundling the 2 together for a discount, and so that is what we are at. In addition, in Berkeley, I'm not sure I know the answer to this. She said she did include that brochure about the tactical cleanups.
There they
Yeah,
are.
they come in and like,
Okay.
I mean, there's a group, they go up and down the waterway, doing cleanups, removing some logs and stuff like that, plus the trash that's along there that may not get all the way down. So it's I mean, that's a great thing. Walter and I talked today, I budgeted 25,000 for ours for the year.
That's right.
So I would say this, and you and I can talk with them, but I would love to get it on October 1 to September 30th.
Yeah.
So I would really, all we need to do is if they would, is let us fund the one
The shape.
just till September, and then we can come back in the budget and put the 40,000, add the extra 15 for the year, but I've already got 25 in there for the one, so
Okay, that's right.
I would just say if we could, how many months is that,
So it's at the end of June, so July, August, September.
So
is
if
3.
it's $7,500, and just put it in my contractual service line item, and then I can just pay for it, and then we can start it in the fiscal year and start going October 1 to September 30th.
Which we do for Griffin Creek.
Yeah, we already
We
did
do
for
for Griffin
Griffin
Creek.
Creek.
So wait, you want the 7,500 and 0120 contractual services? Okay.
So is our motion to make a motion to move
just
from
do
carryover fund balance?
Name
No,
Bonnie.
no,
7,500.
it's already in his.
I already have 25 in there.
The
I would just
7,500
leave
would be new.
7,500
Okay.
And get them to let us just take it for the one in Griffin Brook, let us take it till September, and then we'll start over anew with the new one.
So you need
in October.
7,500 from carryover fund
Yeah.
balance, new money to be
Yeah,
added to
just
your
do that.
0120 contractual.
Because I've already got 2,500, or 25,000 in there.
Is there a contract we have to sign?
Yeah, but my thing would be just to ask them to extend our current one,
So we can get on a fiscal year?
and then we could get the new contract in October for Mike then.
Then I'll just do a budget amendment, resolution for that.
No
Yeah.
resolution authorizing their sign.
I'll
Yeah.
message tomorrow and copy you.
Yeah, and just ask would that be okay, if we would just let us pay them the 1,500 a month for the Griffin Brook one, and take it through September 30th, and then we'll
Pick them
start
both up.
anew with a new contract.
Because, I mean, that's a substantial
Yeah, that
discount
one's-
to put the 2 together
yeah,
like that.
It is.
So,
So right
do I
now,
need
we're
to
just
make
gonna write a
motion
resolution
to-
to amend your budget. We won't be authorizing the mayor to
That's
sign a
right.
contract unless you say differently.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I need to make a motion to move 7,500 from carryover fund
Yeah.
balance to his
Contractual services.
contractual
Contractual
services
services.
account?
I got you.
And,
Oh, sorry.
okay. Is that it?
Second.
Okay,
Walton.
okay, move Counselor Harden, I think that was Counselor Gwaltney that seconded that, okay. All right, any other questions about that? Thank you for being flexible with that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that's 5-0. Passes. Our last item, 050423, request to set bid date for City Hall parking deck repair and restoration project. We have Mr. Pugh here tonight, and I think I'll make this off for everybody.
Yeah, this is the parking deck restoration project. We've already, I've provided you all with a copy of this as well. We've already finished the visual assessment and the technical specs. Project scope of work is all right here. It includes everything from exterior precast wall joint restorations to masonry walls, to the concrete on the parking deck. It's a very comprehensive scope of work. So now it's time to move forward with actually getting it done. Just today, I was sent an update on the cost of the bid phase services, which Hickson Consultants will do for us, which includes the prep for pre-bid, solicit bidders, conduct pre-bid on-site, answer RFIs, and review bids. So they'll do that for $43.75. The rest of their proposed services are also listed on there, if you want to go ahead. Move forward with those.
And these are leaks in the parking deck that are coming, water coming in.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, there are lots of problems, lots of problems.
General maintenance.
What's the total again?
It's just time to do maintenance on
18
it.
years.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, some water will just eat that
There's the
concrete right out of
$43.75,
here.
then there's the $17,460, if you just move on down to
Okay,
$34.5.
And
Is
we're-
budgeted?
It's not budgeted, no.
And so we're setting a bid date also.
Bid day, yeah.
Are y'all asking them to the budget
Can I
or?
ask a question?
Yes, sir.
I know I've been a proponent of trying to get this done as soon as possible, because it's got issues with deterioration of water and things like that. Do we want to set a bid date so we know when they're going to have the bids ready?
Yeah, thanks for speaking up on that, because that's probably, we may be putting the cart before the horse here. We may need to get Hickson involved on this
Okay.
first and hold off on
Right.
setting the bid date, so I think that's a good.
Okay.
They're the ones that did the initial inspection when the deck was built, and really the primary reason we got a 15-year warranty was with their help and guidance, because
Right.
they're water specialists. I think the world of their services they gave us 15 years ago, and I work with them since. They're not cheap, but they are very good, and I think we really do need somebody to come in and inspect the work that has the specialty and ability to make sure we get what we're paying for, and that it's what we need.
Yeah, that's,
So then do we just need to
That's
make a
wise.
motion to move the money
I think so.
to cover the initial costs?
I think that's where we are.
And then
right now.
hold off
Yeah,
on
we can have
setting
a
bid date?
resolution authorizing this proposal if you want to money on it.
Okay.
And then they can tell us when they have the bid ready.
Exactly, I think that's where we are.
How much, I guess I didn't, how much money are we needing to move the budget for now, the 43.75?
Here, I'll leave this with you.
Yeah, probably the 43.75 would
But-
cover
Yeah.
prep.
But I mean, will this not have to be done unless y'all
Yeah.
do the project when it gets bid or?
Yeah, this can be done later. I
That can be
just,
done in next
it
fiscal
can.
year.
It can. There's no guarantee that the prices will remain exactly the same. These prices are generally good for 60 days, so.
So really, right now, are y'all amending the budget for the 43.75 to actually solicit bidders or prep the bid? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, at a
I think we're doing
minimum.
the 43.75 right now, and then we
Yeah.
can take up the other in a few weeks if we want to, or later on, but
That's
I
right.
think
Where are you
tonight we're just
asking to
doing
go?
the 43.75.
Not to get them to look at
I guess that's
everything.
gonna go in engineering services.
Well, we paid, I think last year, we had Hickson Consulting, but we had to get it for fixed assets for auditors, we didn't capitalize it. But I think last time, it went into, it was either in 1211 or 0111 contractual services, just their work. The actual construction or whatever may need to go in capital, but do y'all just want the pre-bid? Do y'all want it to go contractual, or what do you want it?
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, I would say contractual.
Contractual.
Someone else has a different thought.
Discuss the capital.
My recommendation right now, I know Robert's not here today, but would be 0111 contractual services, and then if it ends up becoming a project.
I think if it becomes a project, that's likely going to be next budget year
Okay.
anyway, so I think we would be able to do a new line item at that point. So I would say, since this is going to be limited for this budget year, let's start with just contractual services.
So I'll just need to give you that price. It's gonna be new money from carryover fund balance and general fund 0111. Is that okay? Okay.
What about this comms line? You don't care about that in terms of being able to start this work? There's a line, it says typical phone conference Zoom. I don't know if that's required for the city pre-bid period. It's for $700 a month. And should we consider that part of it? Is that necessary?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying.
The typical
700.
phone conference Zoom calls and emails, just so they can communicate, are they gonna charge us for that? And should that be part of the arrangement right now? It says it's for $700 a month.
Yeah, I would think that that's probably more for once the project is going.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good question. I think it's one of the ones we take up later on. I think right now, if I understand it correctly, all we're doing is getting the bidding part going. And then once we get into
Then we
the
determine scope.
construction project, that's when I think that would probably kick in.
Yeah, this part's just identifying what they feel like needs to be done.
Well,
Set off.
we've got a
Have they
scope,
done it?
we've got a very
Yeah,
complete scope,
very
now we just need to
detailed.
bid it out. And-
Oh, okay.
and
So they've gotta get the bid
HCL's
specs
gonna
ready and all
So is that just that section 3 right there, is that's what we're asking, the 43,
That's right.
75?
That's
Okay.
right.
Will we put money in the budget to have them inspect the?
Oh, yes, yeah, they have, there's other tiers to that, as you can see, that are gonna involve the construction management all the
Yeah,
way through.
okay.
All right, so I would make a motion to approve amending the budget to cover the bid
Bid
phase of the project to the tune of, what is it,
43.75.
And then we'll deal with the bid date and the other parts of it when we get to that point.
So you want to send it out and carry it over in committee next Monday?
Sure.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Counselor Smith, second by Counselor Alomar. Any other questions on that? Thank you for that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign. 5-0, that passes.
And can I ask a question? Down on the table is 041222, which has to do with the, no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. The 170223, which has to do with the work in the right-of-way for the American Legion. Can we drop that? Since we're already going
Do we
forward
need
with it?
approval to work
'Cause,
in the
I mean, if
right of way
we're
for
working in our own
project?
right-of-way, we don't have to do it.
I'm pretty sure we can.
Yeah, we good.
Yeah, we don't have,
You can drop that.
yeah.
So we want to
Yeah.
take it
All
off
right,
the table?
Yeah, so I would move to take 170223 off the table.
Second.
Okay, moved by Counselor Smith, second by Counselor Harden, that we'll move that off the table.
And then I
All in
would-
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that passes 5-0.
And then I would move to drop.
Move to drop. Is there a second? Okay, second by Counselor Gwaltney. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by the same sign, that passes 5-0, that's dropped. And with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
You ready, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, Public Works Committee for April 17th. Counselor Wilkerson?
Here.
Counselor Gear? Here. Counselor Sims?
Here.
Counselor Nelms? Here. And Counselor Harden?
Here.
All present, you got a quorum.
All right, can I have a motion to dispense the reading and approval of the minutes from April 3rd? So made.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Sims, second by Counselor Nelms, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Melody. Old business 260323, request for permission to sign an indemnification agreement for work performed in the right-of-way at 610 Broadway. From Mr. Gil Smith, and then, are you the property owner?
I'm Matt Smith, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, I guess just a quick recap. This was in committee a couple weeks ago, went to council last week on the consent agenda, and then was taken off the consent agenda and moved back to committee for further discussion. I guess the goal there was that there might be a couple things that we didn't consider in terms of how this could be potentially handled for this property and for other properties. Is that correct?
Yes, in general.
Okay.
I do think we need to sort of talk about, not with this item, but what we want to do about right-of-way, planting trees, and whether the city's going to do that, or under what circumstances we'll allow homeowners to do it.
And what kind of trees it will have.
Right, what kind of trees, when it's okay, when it's not, all those sorts of things. So I think that, that's something we will discuss separately.
Sure.
But with regard to this item, one of the reasons I sent it back was because there were some concerns about needing some more input on it. And one of the things that we could talk about, that we did not talk about last time, which would also lead into, if we're gonna let residents do this, is to have a covenant done that would run with the land. So currently, when you plant trees, you sign an indemnity agreement, but what ends up happening inevitably is that people who plant the trees move, and then the new people own the house and they don't care about the trees, and then the trees become the city's problem. If there is a way to make that agreement run with the land by having the homeowners enter into a covenant, which would make whoever owns the land at that point in time responsible for the trees. Because I know that was a concern last time. My personal belief is if we're going to allow residents to plant trees in the right way, that's the direction we should go. If we're not, and we're just going to say either no one can plant trees in the right way or only the city can plant trees in the right way, that's a difference. Then you don't have to worry about the covenants, obviously. But with regard to this one, I know that was a concern of some people, was what happens later on. And we did not discuss that option. So that is an option that the city can undertake, should that make a difference to anyone on this item. And then, like I said, I think we'll have a separate item where we will discuss how we move forward with who's allowed to plant trees in the right way and under what circumstances.
Do you mind if I speak to just for a second?
Yeah, in just a second, I think. Sure.
Do you want signing in, sir?
And I think part of the reason too was last committee, we almost had only this committee. And
There was
not
nobody
the
else here
Almost
that I
everybody
saw
else had
that,
gone, so.
get some input from others. Everybody left us. I just want that to be noted on the record. But
Yeah, we did.
but-
What were you wanting noted on the record?
No.
Agreed.
I'm sorry.
And I was just gonna say, I mean, it's a question of, I know the trees they were gonna put in there.
Have
you know,
already put
Not
it there.
land, but the
Do what?
Have already placed in the right of way.
Oh.
These
yeah,
are
I guess
already
they
in the
did.
right
You're
of way.
right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Those are, what kind of oaks are they? Willow oaks, which could go 40 to 50 feet in the air, and more importantly, what they do to our sidewalks. And we end up having to repair sidewalks, because truthfully, the root system goes beyond our right of way. And so I think Berkeley, obviously rightly so, was concerned about future repairs, as these trees grow, and 10, 15, 20 years from now, we got sidewalk problems. And so then the question became, what do we want to do? I mean, there's a lot of these that are in the right of way right now. There are a lot of folks have done it over the years. What's our decision?
Or those trees may have been there before sidewalks were put in. Who knows?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So I was going to ask President Wyatt if there was a way to create a covenant, how does that cover not just the tree itself, but the sidewalks, for example, that have been of concern in the past?
Well,
And sidewalk
so
repair, that
essentially
sort of
what
thing.
the covenant would do would make the tree, the tree would be the homeowner's tree, even though the land wouldn't be. And so whatever happens with the tree, or anything that needs to happen with the tree, becomes the homeowner's responsibility. So if it's,
Including sidewalk repair. if
if it's causing
totally
damage of
broken.
some kind.
What we have typically, we have a duty to maintain whatever improvement it is. What Alex is talking about, 10 years from now, somebody moves away, sells their house, and the new owner says, I didn't know anything about this. The way to get around that is if we have to include in our covenant, in our indemnification agreement, a legal description, record that in probate court, and that runs with the property, whoever owns it is responsible for that. And they've been given notice under the recording of the probate court that they have this responsibility and can't say, it's not my problem, I don't know anything about it. It puts everyone on notice that there's a continuing obligation associated with that improvement, in this case, a tree planting would be the improvement.
Okay.
So President Wyatt, in this case, since that's not the existing policy, would the homeowner have to
proffer a covenant, or would that be part of the
No, it's a
motion?
condition of what we.
Yeah, we can make it a condition of
Okay.
approval.
We have on occasion
Yep.
had covenants running with the land and it's spelled out specifically.
Okay.
So, no, it's not something that, it's a condition of them being able to plant in our right, that we control our right.
It would in essence be just like the indemnity agreement, it's just
Okay.
more extensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then I reached out to Kale this afternoon with some questions and just wondered if, and he said that, you know, there had been some additional discussion, so I was just wondering if we could maybe get a report from him next.
Yeah, sure. And so Melanie knows this too, because she had some questions for me that I forwarded to the arborist, Michael. So it's probably gonna be best if I just read these. Questions came from Melanie. In your opinion, are willow oaks a good choice as a tree type to allow between sidewalks and the road? He says willow oaks are good choices for street trees due to their ability to withstand tough conditions. They have small leaves and acorns that provide minimal fall litter compared to other shade trees. While there are other tree types that are specifically for narrow areas that do not provide the same street tree character that currently exists along Broadway and surrounding streets. And they typically have lower branches. So the lower branches of the willow oak canopy will get high enough to not provide any obstruction to pedestrian or vehicles. That's question number one. Number two, there was an LSU Ag Center recommendation that Melanie sent and asked for the arborist to review it about spacing and apart from structures. And he said all shade trees can be planted in a wide range of spacing distances. Most websites are going to list the recommended spacing for the tree to achieve maximum canopy width. However, shade trees are very versatile and will adapt to their conditions. If an obstruction is in place, the tree canopy will typically not grow as aggressively in that direction. And then the third question, she asked, do you foresee any long-term problems planting willow oaks close to the sidewalk or structures, or what other problems do you foresee? And he says, while it is impossible to state that there will be any long-term problems, I believe that the situation is unlikely to have any major issues. As previously mentioned in the original review, the adjacent sidewalk appears to have been in place for a long time, therefore the subgrade should be fairly compact. Tree roots, especially for newly planted tree, are going to move towards the path of least resistance and shouldn't create any cracking in the sidewalk. As far as the canopy of the tree is concerned, the only part that may need to be pruned more often than normal is toward the homeowner's side of the tree. Is that reflective of what?
Yes, and, you know, I'd like to follow up with that. After our meeting a couple of weeks ago, I just, you know, did some research. I'm a gardener and have a little expertise, and so I'm interested in this, and I found that, you know, basic best practices for these kind of trees are that they be not planted any closer than 20 feet to a structure. I mean, this is ideal condition, right? Not closer than 20 feet to any structure, and when you're going to plant trees in a line like that, you know, it's recommended that they be close to 40 feet apart, and that's because they're going to get, in ideal conditions, 80 to 100 feet tall, and, you know, I don't know how wide. I don't really remember how wide. I think I gave Brian some information about that. But, you know, I think the bottom line here is, so this is when go back to that first, the one where the willow oaks are all in a row, and the picture, number one picture that I sent you. No, the one that shows them as street trees, not the one from the Ag Center, that one. So that is what trees, those are willow oaks, and those are conditions, in my opinion, where you would want to use a tree that large when you had a large Broadway, and, you know, probably not on the small lots that we have in Homewood. I think we all want to encourage trees, and I think our question is simply, I feel like we did have a policy in place for this sort of thing. The policy was homeowners come to us when they want to plant something in the right of way, and we make a determination at that point if it's something that we want to allow there. And I feel like if we had gone through that process, that it's a good chance that we might have allowed trees in the right of way. But we most probably would have suggested something smaller than a willow oak. That's considered the largest of the trees. And so, that's how this has happened, right? And we want to support trees, and I think we have to decide, do we want trees in our right of way moving forward? But when you walk up and down the street in this area, 75 and 80 years ago, when these trees were planted in this right-of-way area between the sidewalk and the road, most of those are not there anymore. Most trees that are being planted now are crepe myrtles and smaller varieties. There are still a good many of them up in the yards, but the ones around the corner, the pictures that I took, there aren't that many left on Broadway that are in our city right-of-way. Most of them are further up. This is around the corner, and this has about the same depth from the sidewalk to the road as our condition on 610 Broadway. And so these are the trees, and this is about what we'll be seeing. Of course, it won't be for another 75 years. And I think the question is just, do we want to encourage this? Do we want to have this? And if not, then what solution might we find with this particular homeowner? Would he consider a different type tree? Would the city consider taking his willow oaks and planting them in a better place? I don't know. And then the question about going forward, do we really want anything planted there? So I think that's where we are.
Yeah,
Sure.
sure, Mr. Gwaltney, and then Mr. Smith, sure. Okay, sure, go for it.
I'll just step up here. So first of all, I'm Matt Smith. My wife was here last time. She is much better at this than me because she is a self-described tree hugger. She loves trees. We planted 37 trees at our last house because she loves them. I promise we're not doing that here. But she is in Dallas for work, so I got the duty of coming up here and speaking to y'all. So because I think you're making valid points, obviously. I just kind of want to address how we got to this point because I think it will give y'all some clarity on it a little bit too. Part of me feels like there's two issues here, and we kind of might be getting caught in the middle because I think there's a valid point of what do you want to do with the homeowners? Is this a right move to make going forward for trees in the right-of-way? Is that something we want to address? But it's almost like we're kind of the in-between, like, okay, we're going to hammer down with this crowd for whatever reason, and that's the beginning of the new policy. And my thought, covenant, I'm a former attorney. I like the covenant idea. I wouldn't have a problem signing whatever y'all came up with on that because we planted the trees and I feel responsible for that. But as far as how we got to this point, trust me, we did not try to circumvent the system to get here. We actually, my wife and I went up and down Dixon and Broadway, not to ask people, hey, what's your tree? How'd you plant this? But more to introduce ourselves, say hello, and in the conversation, not everybody we met, but some, my wife loves trees, so she talked to him about, hey, what type is that? How did y'all go about planting them? Did you have to get a request? Everyone we spoke to, up and down Broadway, said we planted them, and that was it. We came from a place where there was a board. HOA, thank you. An HOA. And so we knew Homewood doesn't have an HOA, so we're like, what do we do? And they're like, we just planted them. No big deal. And so my wife then talked to a landscaper and said, hey, we're looking at doing trees. What do you think would make sense to do in this area with this depth, with this length? They both had some suggestions because my wife has plenty, and he listened and he made some recommendations. They both agreed on the willow oaks and put them in. And when the landscaper was still there doing some work at the house, Scott Evans, Scott Cook, not Evans, Scott Cook, came by and my wife saw him taking some photos and went out and talked to him, and then I was driving up at the same time. Super nice guy, first of all. Very nice guy. That's somebody y'all want as a face of Homewood because he's very, very nice. But he said, hey, y'all are supposed to get permission for this before you do it. here, he said, now he did say, I'll tell you, y'all did us a favor because you took down a dead tree. There was a dead tree in that right of way. It's supposedly the city is responsible for taking that down. We just paid to take it down. We didn't know, so we took it down and replaced it with 4 new trees. He said, call Kel. He gave me Kel's number. And I think probably within 5 minutes I was leaving Kel a message because we try to do stuff the right way. And we wanted to make sure we were doing this the right way. Kel gave me the information on what the next steps were, which was coming before the committee to do all that. Again, our landscaper is still there when Scott's there, and this is probably not Scott's place. It's probably not his job to say, hey, you need to move those trees and go plant them somewhere else. He didn't make that suggestion, so we didn't think anything of it. We talked about coming and applying for an indemnification agreement. And then the next step is the arborist came, which my understanding, I guess, tax dollars, whatever, go to pay for this arborist for the city. He comes out. I was not there. My wife was and walked out and talked to him. And you were asking great questions last time. My wife said she was too nervous to stand up and answer them, but the arborist addressed your exact questions about the spacing. He measured them with the measuring tape. Got out there and measured them and said, this is good. I think he actually said, these might be a little bit closer than what would normal, but I don't see any reason that these would cause any issues with tree growth, tree development. He said they've got good deep roots, so they're not surface roots that would cause issues normally with sidewalks and roads. The tree leaves and things you mentioned, he also mentioned to my wife about it's good for drainage. You don't have to worry about that. And again, our landscaper is still there doing work, so if he would have said, and he said, my recommendation to the council is going to be that these trees be approved. He said, I see no problem with them. If he would have said right then and there, hey, these are not good trees, my landscaper's there. I probably could have got him to move those without having to pay him again. I hesitate to say this because y'all will laugh as we probably spent too much on it, but we spent $7,000 doing those trees and pulling up weeds and crabgrass in that right of way. I thought our builder ran out of money. Maybe he realized he couldn't do it. I don't know. But we resodded that whole area with zoysia grass. It matches our yard. We spent that money. We didn't come to the city for it. We spent the money on the trees. We spent the money to have the irrigation system in the yard changed in our yard, not on the right of way, so it will reach the trees and the grass out there. If the arborist would have said, my recommendation is not to approve these, here's a suggestion, our landscaper's right there. We could have done something. If I go back to him now, he's gonna, and rightfully so, he's gonna charge us to do that. It's not, hey, sorry, it's freebie, you do it. I also understand we're coming after the fact. That's on us. We tried to ask the question. I will say after the fact, I went back to a few of those people, and one of the neighbors said, we never did that. And his wife kind of grabbed him and said, hey, remember we had to reply to take the dead tree down, and when we did, I think we signed the indemnification agreement for the new trees. And he felt terrible about it because they had given us advice that we didn't need it. We were not trying to circumvent y'all. I'd love to do the covenant or the indemnification. We plan on being in Homewood for a long time. We go to Trinity. Our kids are at Edgewood and TCDC, and I also understand at some point we'll die or sell that house, and something needs to happen with those trees. So anyway, I talk a lot, I blabber a lot, so I appreciate y'all letting me talk for just a second, but I did want to give y'all a little clarity on that.
Can I ask?
Sure.
I'm noticing now, because now I figured out which house this is and where this is.
Yes.
So that's,
Right on
it's
Dixon.
not, yeah, so it's on the Dixon side, it's not on the Broadway side.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
That's
right,
the
right,
Dixon
right,
side.
okay.
The rest is
Yeah.
Broadway.
It's on the side street, okay.
And it is a little bit wider there than
There,
some of the
yeah.
right-of-ways.
Yeah.
But it is, in fairness, it's still narrow. It is
wider, and that area is wider, but Oglesby was also that same distance. And, not every willow oak does tear up the sidewalk. It doesn't. But I think, like I said, I'm not sure, given the question straight up, when you were planting, I feel like we would have tried to encourage a smaller tree. I've sat here for 2 years and listened to our public services talk about the expense of maintaining the trees and
Yeah, the gutters and the
sidewalks
drainage.
and the.
Sure.
So I feel like it's kind of you know, there's a lot to consider, but thank you for your time and explaining that.
Yeah, I appreciate you speaking. Yes, Counselor Jones. Actually, Counselor Smith wanted to say something first.
No, I asked him the question. That was my question about the,
Okay.
being on Dixon side.
Oh, that's right. Counselor
Mr.
Walton
Walton.
was waiting first.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
you were
Counselor
next.
Jones,
You
go
were
ahead.
next.
Okay. I was gonna say, I like the idea of the covenant. I'm not in favor of punishing a homeowner anytime they take the initiative to add to our canopy, because one of the hardest things we have to do in this city is find places on city property that we can plant trees. The last time we budgeted for trees, 2 years ago? I think we put 50 in. We were just scrambling and scrounging for spots to put trees. We ended up putting some of the school. So I appreciate it when you take the initiative to plant these trees in the right of way, and I understand the situation, whether you're new here or you just got here, you know, you didn't know. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have known that I had to do it whenever we renovated our house. I actually came before council while I was on council and got permission. I've never planted the trees, but, you know, the way it works out, I think we should be encouraging this instead of punishing people for it in this situation, especially when we've had a professional give their professional opinion to tell us that this is acceptable. So I think whenever opinions come into play, you have to leverage those that have the expertise in this area. Additionally, to your comment about the sidewalks, let's be realistic. With the amount of traffic on our sidewalks and just the people that use these things, the kids that drive on them, if we're not replacing a sidewalk once every 50 to 75 years, we should consider ourselves lucky. So I just like to live in, you know, the real world. So more than likely, by the time these push up a sidewalk or have any adverse impact on it, that sidewalk's going to need to be adjusted anyway, or replaced. So I'm not the committee.
Sure.
Me,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Counselor Jones?
I would like to see the council so I can keep my opinion there.
Yeah, I would second that sentiment that we can certainly do the covenant, but we've already had the arborist answer all the questions and say this is what they would recommend. But most homeowners have no idea how far the city right of way goes up, and so I think this is fine. We probably need a policy moving forward, but there's no problem with this, in my opinion. I think we should grant it with the covenant, whatever we come up with.
Well, the one comment to dovetail on that about the trees, I get it, it may not be, it's after the fact, but I would not want to further punish someone by having to go to the expense to remove those trees. I think that's unreasonable.
Well, just for the record, I mean, look, I'm as interested about what we do going forward, and, you know, tree policies are extensive, and you have to have someone to, you know, enforce them, you know, in terms of where to plant. I mean, they're important, and I wasn't talking about punishing the homeowner. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I just, like I said, I've heard from different departments in our city, and I think it's important to plan for long-term, you know, infrastructure health, and that's the discussion I want to have. So, thank you.
Yeah, and, I mean, kind of in follow-up to what you're saying, Melanie, I do appreciate kind of like the questions, because it led us to a deeper conversation about the covenant potential, because I think that's important for going forward, because as Councilor Gwaltney just said, I mean, we need to figure out where we can put, you know, substantial trees which will, you know, reestablish and maintain our canopy in the right of way and have a way where the city's not on the hook all the time. So the covenant is a great tool for us to work with homeowners to maintain that canopy. So I'm grateful for the conversation, because we need more than just crepe myrtles in the right of way to really maintain that canopy. We're going to need, you know, these type trees, and so I appreciate the discussion for sure. And you were going to say something, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to speak to the fact that I think the covenant wasn't something that was kind of suggested or brought up at the last committee meeting, and it is kind of the halfway meeting point, I feel like, between taking the ownership and maintenance off of the city and the city's resources.
Alex, can we move forward with making a motion to include the covenant at this point?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So I don't know, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a motion to approve the identification agreement with the covenant?
Yes, which will include making repairs, tree maintenance, responsibility of the trees. Okay, and that will go with the whole?
Yeah,
with the
it'll
land.
Okay.
run with the land.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Counselor Nelms, second by Counselor Sims, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We still at 5.
Should be 5-0.
Okay.
It seems like we're not a legal description for Carol. A lot.
Yeah, you want me to get that?
Sure.
It's gonna be on your title policy.
So next step, just so you know, would be that this goes out to full council next Monday evening at 6. So we'll be in the room right next door.
Thank you.
All
Good
right,
job.
and with that, we stand adjourned.
Special issues. Counselor Smith?
Here.
Counselor Gear? Here. Counselor Allemond?
Here.
Counselor Sims?
Here.
Counselor Andrus? Here. All present.
Got everybody accounted for? Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes?
So moved.
All right, motion for Ms. Andrus. Can I get a second? Second for Ms. Gear. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0. We have no old business. Moving to new business, and I'm going to take an item out of order. 080423, request for consideration to permit use of City Hall Plaza for summer and fall tournaments by Cornhole BHM, a social cornhole league. It says Don Pietrantoni, but it is actually his lovely wife.
I'm glad you could say that one, because
Pietrantoni. I feel like I want to say that a lot. Okay, you want to come up and just give us the dates, because I think that's what we just, y'all have to come back and just tell us what y'all's dates are for the next season.
Hey, do you mind signing in here?
Oh, yes, and sign it, please.
Do you want my dress?
No. No, this is cornhole. This isn't vault. That's next. Vault's next.
I'm excited.
Okay, I'm here for Will and Sam Pietrantoni, the owners of Cornhole BHM. Last spring, they y'all granted them to use the plaza. They had approximately 30 players that played out here. I do have some pictures on my phone if anybody would like to see them. They set up between 5 and 8 and 1 day a week, and Soho sponsored them. And so while they were waiting until Soho Taco opened, and they've made initial contact with them but are waiting to confirm for sure until they get approval from you. They would like to come and do 2 6-week seasons. That it'd be 1 night a week.
Do we know which night?
You know what night?
Well, I'm gonna guess right now. Last year, Soho picked Tuesday. I will say that usually the location picks because they want to pick a night that is their slowest night because it brings people in. So I'm going to guess it would be Tuesday or Wednesday.
And that's fine, as long, because Monday probably wouldn't be ideal, since, although I think they were.
think you guys were
on
on Monday,
One
yeah.
night y'all were on Mondays.
One time they did do it on
Yeah,
Monday.
because we would come out from city council and they would be down there.
Right.
But I think typically Tuesday's not the most.
So y'all would prefer Tuesday if you approve it?
I think Tuesday's fine. And so the two 6-week seasons,
And
and
it
this
would-
is for summer and fall, so when would the summer season start?
Approximately June 1st.
Okay.
We run 6 weeks.
Okay.
The next season would start approximately November, end by the holidays. Now, again, this is contingent on what happens is then Cornhole works with Soho and all the surrounding areas. Then they start promoting it. And if there's not a minimum of 10 teams, which would be at the very minimum 20 people, then it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and they wait and maybe try it again on another season.
Okay,
Let
okay.
me you mentioned November to the holidays, that Tuesday night, we always have the holiday parade, is a December night.
See, the problem is not knowing a schedule is that we have commitments to other folks who come in and want to use the plaza too.
Right.
So we need to have at least some notice of what night it's going to be.
Yeah.
And just
Do we
stay
know,
there.
like, what are our commitments to this point? Do we know?
Well, we have to give, what is it, 30 days, well, 10 days.
10 days.
Okay. Do we have, like, stuff scheduled right now?
Tuesday until.
Well, you could
the
just
26th.
tell us the day,
Yeah.
and we could tell
I mean, I
Soho
think-
the day.
Tuesday?
So you go to Mayo, I know.
Okay, yeah, and they're not
And we
starting by
we
then
wouldn't be
anyway.
starting then anyway.
But not going
And they
to
wouldn't do it
December
July
1st, maybe
4th, because
December
that's
2nd.
usually a big
Yeah.
Yeah.
holiday in the
I mean, that
cities.
Tuesday is going to be.
Yeah, because and what Jennifer's talking about is for the holiday parade. The Christmas parade ends at the plaza, and there's generally
There's
like
no
the
way you could
tree.
set anything
They've
up
got
there.
Right,
the
well,
thing
and
set up.
that
so-
could easily be a night that they don't have it.
Yeah.
Well, between now and next Monday night, just give us your schedule.
Yeah. If y'all can talk to, and I mean, if Tuesday night works for y'all and the boys are good with that, and that seems like a good time, but you just mentioned, because it's usually like December 3rd, 4th,
That first
whatever.
Tuesday in
The first
December.
Tuesday in December.
Okay.
It's the 6th, it's the 6th this year. Mention to them that might be, and so they might say, well, we really want to keep having it in December, so we'll move to Wednesday night or whatever.
Yeah, it's very flexible.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
send out, I mean, it's, I'm not minimizing it, but it is cornhole.
Right. We're not having the Olympics.
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, but if you could maybe before next Monday, when we actually move it out to full council.
Okay.
Just kind of nail down what date y'all think y'all want.
Okay.
Day that y'all want, and then know that y'all, so that the summer season would start on 6/1, June 1st, and I know this is contingent on getting the team to play. And then the fall season would start on 11/1.
About then.
Okay, and I mean, y'all could, if y'all wanted to, like, back it up to, like, end of October,
just
so that
come-
maybe you
come with
avoid that.
specific
Yeah, come with
dates.
some specific dates for that, taking that first Tuesday into consideration in December. And then we can address all that then, too.
Okay, and then I think cornhole pays $100 to,
I think that's right. I think that's, in the past, that's exactly what y'all done. And I think there is a contract, right?
There is, but we just need to put all the.
To update the information, yeah. And I think John was supposed, when we.
well,
made
we
the
didn't
decision-
want to, I guess we didn't want to put the cart before the horse. We didn't want to get the restaurants to say, okay, we want to do this, and then us start advertising, and then y'all not approve it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of,
Yeah, so now.
So now we're there, so get the dates and please just tell us what dates you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that, because if we move this out of committee with an approval, it'll go to council on Monday night. So
Next
you'll have-
Monday.
Yes, yeah. And if you can come with your dates that you want, then we can get that taken care of
If
when
you
we're
could let
there.
White know when you determine those, so we can change the contract.
Yeah. You
Okay.
can just shoot the dates to Wyatt in advance of Monday night, and then that way we could put those into the contract, so the contract could be ready to be signed.
okay, and just out of curiosity, would you prefer not a Monday night since you meet on Mondays?
I mean,
No, Monday night's good, actually. We're trying to get more people down here in City Hall on Mondays. Normally people scatter when we have meetings, so let's get
I mean,
people
Monday
down
night
here.
really. I mean, I don't remember there ever being a problem with
There's
it,
no
'cause I remember
problem.
coming out from
Crowded at
and then
all.
being down there. I don't think Mondays.
Well, I mean, we could just go ahead and tell you that we'll do it Monday, and we can just tell Soho that we can get approval on a Monday.
Okay.
That's pretty easy.
Okay,
Love it.
all right, okay. Awesome, okay, so, the motion, I need a motion. One more.
Motion dependent on a schedule being produced for approval on that schedule.
Okay, all
Whatever
right.
that schedule may be.
Whatever the schedule
When
may be.
it is
Okay.
produced.
Yeah, okay, all right. So motion from Ms. Andrus.
Second.
Second from Ms. Gear. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's 5-0, so that will be in council next Monday night.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, I'm not normally doing this.
Yeah.
Someone needs to be here next Monday night and make sure that we're doing it on a Monday and give you the exact date.
Yes, and you can shoot those dates in advance to Wyatt. You can just
Okay.
email those to him, and that way we can have the contract ready to go with those dates included.
Okay, and then Sam and Will, the owners,
Yeah.
will be doing it.
Yeah.
And they'll be on site, and so they will not ask for, one time y'all helped them and they stored the boards here. They're gonna truck them in and out.
Okay, yeah, I remember that changing.
Yeah.
The second time that they were just taking those with them every time they go.
Right.
Yes, okay, perfect.
Okay,
All right,
thank
well,
you.
we'll see y'all next Monday. All right, next, I'm gonna take 090423, which is request to use plaza for street vault competition on July 8th, 2023, from Chris Spear, and Mr. Bischoff. And we have Mr. Spear you're here. You want to just come on up, and if you don't mind, there's a sheet, there's a sign-in sheet over there. Yeah, I'll hand them out, sure. And then we've got the videos and the diagram.
Well, we might as well start with the video, because I don't think a lot of y'all understand what this is, just straight up. So, could we actually start with the video?
Yeah. I can show them both. One's daytime and one's nighttime.
Yeah, it's...
Just a second page.
Did you get one?
It's 2 pages, I'm sorry.
We don't have audio, but it's just visual is really the most important thing. Yeah.
It's just what it is. It's pole vaulting in the street.
Yeah, the audio is really not important.
Ooh, wow. Ooh, so exciting.
So, and then there's another video. Well,
Yeah, you want to do it the one with the nighttime one?
yeah, that's cool. Kind of just backdrop.
Yeah.
You, Chris Spear.
Nice.
Mindy's daughter is vaulting for Auburn.
Are you with that
Graduating.
organization or just in?
Peak Athletics. That's my club team.
Peak?
Peak, P-E-A-K.
There we go.
And this is our boy out of Scottsboro. That's
Wow.
That's 18. That's 18 feet.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my name is Chris Spear. I run Peak Athletics. It's a pole vaulting development group based out of Pelham. I've been helping put on this event down in Dolphin Street for, well, this will be our 12th year hosting it. So, I'm not the director of this event. I'm on the board of directors for this event.
You don't have to play it.
Was that?
Just watching it like entranced.
Yeah, we can just keep going. But we've been doing this every year, and since then it's grown and grown and grown. And I've always wanted to host one in this area. Obviously, Mobile's a long way. It's not mine
every time.
Right.
Good one.
And so we're looking to do one here, and we think the Plaza is a great location. With Soho Social Taco right there, it's already kind of a gathering place for this city anyway, and it's large enough for us to host the event for 150 kids plus. So, other than that,
How often does that happen?
say
How often? Once?
just once a year.
July, right?
Once. It'd be July 8th is our proposed date. Like I said, we've been doing it this will be our 12th year down in Mobile, and just kind of learning with the ups and downs and the headaches of putting it up and tearing it down and all that stuff. We do set up the night before, so if that is at all possible, that would be wonderful. If it is approved, of course. But we'd be doing it all day. It'd start 8 in the morning, and we would go until we finished. It's proposed to be done by 9:30. So it's just kind of an event for everything from beginners all the way up to the very experienced.
And just for a little background, Mindy Walden brought this idea to us. Her daughter Brooke is going to be a pole vaulter for Auburn, and she is part of Chris's club. And so they've been doing, like we said, doing this down in Mobile for a long time, and wanted to do something closer to home because there's a lot of kids on the team that are here. And JJ kind of took on the onus of making sure that this would actually work, because they can't be anywhere where there's anything overhead.
Yes.
You know, that could be that could be
Power
hit.
lines.
Yeah,
Power
power
lines are
lines
the big
and
one.
such.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and out here in the plaza, it is obviously clear up above. And then they do have vendors, right? There's
Well, we've talked about putting vendors registration, obviously for the making sure everybody's signed in and
Right.
shirts and stuff like that. DJ, and then we've obviously I can't remember who I talked to, but they were talking about putting kiosks out for their stuff there.
okay, and so just to point this out, they also have their own insurance policy.
Yes.
Yes,
we
they
do.
do.
Yeah.
That was obviously.
I already asked that one.
Yes, that's really the first question to ask.
my
is,
first
Are you covered by
Actually,
insurance? Yes,
two
they
forms
are.
of insurance that makes you feel any better.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
the athletes will have our own insurance on the athletes, and we have also event insurance as well. So, it'd be for both.
My real question is, do you need Rosewood Hall as well for two reasons. One, to ensure that no other event goes on there that day while you got all this, and you're not competing. And two, do you need an air-conditioned space?
We don't have to have an air-conditioned space. We don't in Mobile. Most people, they want to get out of the thing. They go to a restaurant. They go find a place to get away for a few minutes to go get out of the heat. That's what we do down at Mobile. As far as an event, I don't know. I didn't consider that. I didn't even know y'all held events downstairs.
Yeah, we
Okay.
do. That can be rented out as well. So,
Your advertisement said you'd have 150 to 200 residents.
Yes.
From literally 8 to 10:30 at night.
8 to 9:30 is the proposed time, but it might go. I mean, that's why I've kind of built in a buffer because I think I was told 11 is the cutoff.
Yeah, for noise.
Because
Yeah.
so I built in a buffer just to make sure.
Chris, explain how the small at the lower heights start in the beginning and
Yeah.
work your way up to
Yeah.
the higher.
So obviously it works up. It kind of we build up to the crescendo at the end. We start with the youngest athletes, and they start early in the morning,
And then you get 18 feet.
and then we get knucklehead, like him that jumps 18 feet. So last year we had 3 guys attempting 18 feet. So it was really fun to kind of end with what is deemed the elite bar, or what would considered Olympic level. And he's only in high school, so it's but he's number 10 all time in Alabama, not in Alabama, in the U.S. period in high school. So it's we've been very fortunate to have very good athletes in this area. Right now, what do we have? 5 or 6? 6 now in the top 50. Ham. Hamm.
Okay.
So, but right now we have 6 athletes in the state of Alabama in the top 50 in pole vault, so in the nation. So.
Can I speak on a spectator perspective?
Yes.
Sure, yeah, and if you don't mind,
Okay,
maybe
sure.
sign in.
Okay.
What's the highest you've ever gone?
My name is
79 was the highest ever.
my name is
Now
Mindy
jump me.
Walden, and my daughter, like we said, works with Chris and is currently a Homewood High School athlete and is going to go to Auburn. And so this event we've attended, I guess, 4 summers in a row, and it is just really fun. It's probably our most favorite event we do, mainly because it's only pole vaulters, which that very rarely happens in track and field. And pole vaulting is such a unique thing that it draws a crowd. And so I think that, as people see what's going on during the day, especially this first year, they will realize that, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is super fun. So it could be good for Jax. It could be good for Soho, all the Soho stuff. Everything around here, people walking to during the day. The kids typically do hang out a good portion of the day, whether they're, a lower height vaulter to a higher height vaulter. It's just a fun, super cool event that would be really awesome for Homewood. Birmingham doesn't want it, so we would love for Homewood to do it.
They just
Yeah, so.
Was it money? Too much money?
They wanted $9,000 for a
Yeah.
permit.
Really?
Yeah, so.
It was ridiculous. Was that?
You're gonna have to have, I'm sorry to bother, step in, you're gonna have bathrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the only thing we were trying to figure out was bathrooms in this area.
Restaurant bathrooms aren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that might be, and I don't know, I can't tell you what.
Yeah, we're sort of bleeding over into Rosewood Hall is the issue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the easy thing is to rent Rosewood Hall and get to use the plaza
And then have the
Right, I mean,
bathrooms.
that would be the easy thing. I don't know what we charge for Rosewood Hall.
Yeah, I
quite
don't,
frankly, but-
JJ, do you know currently?
Probably 3 or 4 thousand. 2 to 4.
We're near 29,000.
Yeah, it's not 29.
Not 29.
Yeah, that was when they gave me that number. I was like,
I mean, this is a for-profit event, right?
we will. Yeah, eventually it will not make money. The first probably 2-3 years. We're hoping just to maybe break even, maybe
What's your registration for your 200 participants?
$75. But we're looking to get more sponsors. We've already started kind of looking to get
You'll make
that.
money.
I don't think you understand how expensive the equipment is.
Well, I thought you were going to get equipment from Mobile free.
No, I've got one runway from Mobile for free. I'm having to supply the rest on my own. So.
But that might, and what that would also do is prevent another event from booking
It
Rosewood
solves a
Hall.
lot of problems,
Yeah.
to do it that way.
Yeah, because
Right.
if somebody booked like a wedding reception that day, which they do host those.
Okay.
I mean, essentially, when you have that activity on the plaza, you kill Rosewood Hall.
Right.
It would not be rented.
Yeah, it would.
So we would need to rent Rosewood Hall.
Probably, and
Yeah.
that would just give you access to all those bathrooms down there and the air conditioning and a space for the kids if they wanted to get out and eat and go.
Lots of
And
vendors.
yeah,
Right.
you could put, I mean, yeah, you could put.
Or for
vendors.
example, if, you know, a thunderstorm popped up in the
Right.
middle of summer, you're gonna have space inside that you can run everyone in if you
Yeah.
need to, or, you know, it just seems to me that sort of solves all the problems if you do that.
Okay.
And that's an easy agreement because we've already got one of those in place, that we can forward to you, and then you've already got the insurance, so that I know that JJ or someone talked to you about, so I think that would probably be the easiest thing and cover everything.
Okay.
And related to that, just
All right.
just out of curiosity, would the city of Homewood be, at this time, for use of the plaza, be noted in any sponsorships? You've mentioned the sponsorships, and if not, like, what are those levels for sponsorship?
If you would like, I can email that to you. That's a little bit easier, but we have.
No, that's fine. I
Okay.
just think that in the discussion as it progresses, as the rates for Rosewood Hall are determined, you know, possibly, you know, if you're looking to minimize budget, maybe, you know, in-kind sponsorship for the city with some, you know, the additional amount paid for Rosewood Hall rentals, maybe something, I mean, just be smart to look through all of that to make sure, you know, that we can hopefully help you host this event. That's all I was gonna say.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send it to JJ, and that way.
And it may not be an option, but I would just send it, you know, in consideration.
Okay.
Because we don't even know the amount for Rosewood Hall right now.
Yeah, but we can find that out before Monday
The
night.
real rate's what it is, it was published.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah. We can find that out before Monday night and let you know.
I'll get on that.
All right.
And you can look as you leave and see what.
Yeah, you can see with it, because it's down there on the first floor, like that's, yeah.
Well, I would make a motion to approve use of Rosewood Hall and the plaza with that
Okay.
for this event on
Okay,
site.
all right, I have a motion from Ms. Anderson, a second from Mr. Alamon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0. Okay, so that will be for final approval with the full council next Monday night at 6 o'clock next week.
Would it be okay if Miss Walden's here for that?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Unfortunately, we have state coming up.
Oh, yeah, you kind of need to go
Kinda
coach
need to
some
coach
people?
kids,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, 100%. Yeah, that's fine, if Mindy comes, yeah, that's fine.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank y'all. Okay, going back to the top, 060423, request for consideration to vacate a portion of unnamed city right-of-way adjacent to 328 Redfern Street. David Mitchell, Wyatt Pugh. Mr. Pugh?
Yes. Mr. Mitchell is here. He's requesting to vacate a portion of right-of-way directly behind his house. The right-of-way was built over many years ago. The pool deck actually took in the right-of-way. It's a 10-foot alley back there, paper alley,
Okay.
inaccessible.
Oh, it's inaccessible?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Salter Road, Broadway, and when you come around the curve, it's right above you.
Oh, up on, got it. Okay.
So, this is his property.
Okay.
And this is the little portion of right of way he's requesting.
Is this the yellow house? Yellow house up on the hill? Okay.
He's gone through the process of getting the petition and created the declaration of vacation. So, now it's just a matter of whether or not they can.
We have to advertise this for 30 days.
Okay,
Give
before we
notice to everybody that touches that alley.
And then we have to have a public hearing, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Based on if you approve it tonight, you go to have next Monday night. The first time you can have the publication will be June the 12th.
Okay. All right. And then.
Post for 30 days.
Yeah.
You have to have at least 30 days.
Send out without recommendation.
Yeah, well, yes, but let me clear, so when we do a vacation, remind me, the math is based on the square footage of the piece of property?
Yeah.
Well, let's figure that out.
Yeah, if you'll go to the second page, Brian, we're looking at 328 Redfern, and then on the backside, 940 Mountain Ridge Drive. I've copied these directly off of the tax assessor's website. This one comes out to $3 a square foot, this one 50 cents.
Okay.
So that comes to an average of 175.
Okay.
The piece of property he's requesting is 1,186.09 square feet times 175, we're looking at $2,000.
Okay, all right. Thank you for figuring that out. Appreciate that. And so, yeah, Jennifer asked, I guess the appropriate motion is to send this out without recommendation pending setting the public hearing.
Set a public hearing for June the 12th.
Okay, okay.
So we have to advertise.
Okay.
Send it out to set a public hearing.
Okay, okay.
And if you want to go ahead and send it out pending that.
Yeah.
So you don't have to leave it.
Have to come back, yeah, because there's really no reason to keep it here. Okay, so motion to send out without recommendation pending the public hearing, which we will set for June the 12th.
Second.
All right, motion from Ms. Andrews, second from Mr. Elamon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, 5-0, that is approved. So really, I don't think you need to probably come next Monday because all we're gonna do next Monday is set the public hearing officially for June the 12th. But then for the June 12th, so you would wanna come back for that, for the public hearing. All right. Okay, final item, 070423, request for consideration of abolishing the Cable Commission from Ms. Andrews and Mr. Jones.
So
All right.
Mr. Jones had brought
Abolishing, I
this
feel
to, I
so
know,
powerful.
no more. Mr. Jones had brought this up a few years ago.
Defund the cable commission.
And at the time, we had a lot of people that were still on the commission, and so we decided as a council to let their terms expire.
Uh-huh.
And so I've sent the document to Brian to show everybody that the last person is the Ward 5 person. He expires next month, May 2022. He's actually the one that brought this to my attention. This board never meets. The chair, he thinks, has moved
I
out of
haven't
Homewood.
expired, by the way.
Right. Well, I reached out to Alex and Mr. Kendrick. Mr. Kendrick said, quote, "We are not required to have the cable commission based on changes in cable TV regulations by the city. Their only function was and can be to receive complaints with no real teeth to resolve. Now that the customer service standards and actions are generally regulated and controlled by federal law."
The Cable TV Act changed
Everything.
15 years ago. Essentially, all that's regulated now by the federal
FCC.
cable TV Act.
FCC,
So
yeah.
it's really not. At one point, it was a very active board. And we had several ethics complaints. So it's just not something that they carry out a continuing purpose under the federal law.
Okay, so what did you say the date of his?
He is May 2022.
Oh,
Andy Russ.
he was May 2022.
He is the last person. He expires May 2022. Is that right?
22 was last year.
22 was last year.
Oh, that's right.
He's already
expired. Sorry.
Okay, so technically, no one on the board is
Has
still
been
active.
reappointed. Thank
Okay,
you.
okay.
Sorry.
All right. Okay.
And make it abolish the cable commission.
We're abolishing
story
you,
of my
Walter.
life
We
right
are
there.
abolishing you, my
Back
friend.
You only knew the power you'd had for the last year.
All right.
June 1. I should have done
I
that.
have a motion to abolish Walter from Nick and a second from, I think